The movie starts with a guy named Kwon hanging out at an internet cafe, playing video games online and talking to his teammates through the headset. Suddenly, his mom calls him and starts complaining because he left the gas on. Kwon gets annoyed and tells her it's not worth calling him over something like that. She tells him she has a shift at the hospital and won't be home that night. Kwon goes back to gaming until a woman calls him and says she accidentally left her phone at the internet cafe. She asks him to meet her and return it, offering him $300. Kwon agrees because, obviously, he wants the money. He goes to her apartment and knocks, but nobody answers. He notices the door is unlocked, so he walks in and finds the woman in the bathroom. He tells her he came to return her phone. She asks him to leave it on the table, then Kwon asks about the money. She tells him it's upstairs on the bed. Kwon goes up, finds the cash, leaves her phone, and heads out. Before leaving, he warns her to lock the door because it's dangerous to leave it open. The next morning, Kwon is sleeping when the police suddenly storm into his place and arrest him. He's accused of assaulting and killing the woman. Even worse, the police find the murder weapon in his home, and his fingerprints are all over it. Kwon has no idea how any of this happened and keeps insisting he's innocent. The case quickly becomes huge news. We learn that Kwon used to be a taekwondo athlete before becoming a gamer, which makes the accusations even worse. His mom rushes to the police station, screaming and demanding to see her son, but the officers stop her. With nobody believing her, Kwon's mom starts handing out flyers in the streets, insisting that her son is innocent. But people barely pay attention. She eventually goes to a famous lawyer named Sang and begs him to defend Kwon. She tells him she raised her son properly and knows he could never do something like this. Sang refuses. Instead, he tells her Kwon should confess and hope for a lighter sentence. His mother gets furious and argues with him. Sang's secretary tries to calm her down and tells her that her boss only helps people who truly need his help. Still, Kwon's mom turns around and begs Sang one more time to give her son a chance. At the trial, the prosecution presents the evidence against Kwon. He sits there, completely shocked, unable to understand how he can prove his innocence. When he loses his temper and stands up, the guards force him back into his seat. Based on the evidence, the court sentences Kwon to life in prison. His mother is devastated as the guards take him away. Kwon is transferred to prison under heavy security. He keeps breaking down until the guards give him a sedative, and he passes out. When he wakes up, he's placed in solitary confinement. The next day, Kwon is standing alone in the prison yard when a group of inmates suddenly surrounds him. They throw him to the ground and attack him because they believe he assaulted a child. One of them, a powerful inmate named Duke, keeps provoking Kwon until Kwon finally snaps and knocks him down. The other prisoners rush Kwon, but Duke stops them. He grabs Kwon and beats him, warning him to respect the senior inmates and stay away from everyone. The guards arrive, and Duke complains that Kwon attacked him. The officer then hits Kwon with his baton and orders the guards to throw him into solitary for 30 days. After the 30 days are over, Kwon returns to the prison yard. Almost immediately, several inmates come looking for a fight. Kwon runs, but they chase him down. Duke and his men tell Kwon that if he wants to survive in prison, he needs to admit what he supposedly did and show remorse. Later, Kwon's mom visits him with Sang. She notices the injuries on her son's face and is heartbroken. She tells him she's been protesting outside the courthouse and talking to the press. She also says she met someone who knows something about his case and that they're filing an appeal next week. She tells Kwon to hang on because she'll get him out of prison no matter what. Back in prison, Kwon continues getting attacked from time to time, but he stops fighting back. One day, while eating in the prison cafeteria, another inmate sits beside him and tells Kwon that he's been watching everything happening to him. He says he understands people and is convinced Kwon isn't a killer. He even believes Duke knows Kwon is innocent. But Duke keeps attacking him because he thinks Kwon disrespected him. Later, Kwon enters the prison factory. The workers start staring at him, and he realizes they're planning to attack him. He runs and quickly makes a makeshift weapon from the factory tools. He enters another room and finds Duke waiting for him with a metal bar. Duke's men attack Kwon from behind, but Kwon fights back and eventually knocks Duke down. The guards arrive and find Duke on the floor. They tell Kwon he has a visitor. Kwon goes to the visiting room and finds Sang. He asks where his mom is. Then an officer walks in and hands Kwon his mother's death certificate. Kwon is completely shattered. He can't believe she's gone. Sang asks him to sign the paperwork so they can bury her. Kwon breaks down crying. The next morning, Duke's men approach Kwon again, but an officer steps in and stops them. The inmates suddenly attack the guards, triggering a full prison riot. Tear gas fills the area, and chaos breaks out everywhere. Duke moves toward Kwon and pulls out a weapon, trying to attack him from behind. But Kwon turns around and hits him first, knocking him down. An officer gets up, pulls his gun, and orders Kwon to freeze. Instead, Kwon makes a desperate move and injures himself. Both Kwon and Duke are taken to the hospital under heavy guard. During the transfer, Kwon suddenly wakes up and attacks the guards. He grabs a syringe and holds it against the officer, forcing him to hand over the handcuff keys. The driver starts swerving the vehicle from side to side, trying to throw Kwon off balance. The officer pulls his gun and fires. The vehicle eventually crashes and flips over. Kwon manages to crawl out and escape. By nightfall, he steals some clothes from a clothesline and changes out of his prison uniform. Since his case became a national sensation, the news immediately reports his escape, and the police launch a massive manhunt. The next morning, Kwon is running through the streets when he meets a foreign couple whose car has broken down. They don't recognize him, so Kwon helps fix the car. The couple tells him they're heading to the airport because they're flying to China. They reach a checkpoint, and Kwon hides so the police won't recognize him. The couple tells the officer they're in a hurry because they have a flight to catch. At the airport, they tell Kwon they won't be returning to Korea anytime soon. They had bought the car for their trip, but since it broke down, they decide to leave it with him until they come back. Kwon can't believe his luck. That night, Sang is sitting in his office talking on the phone. After hanging up, he turns around and suddenly sees Kwon standing there. Sang is terrified. Kwon apologizes for entering like that, then sits down and drinks tea with him. Kwon tells Sang that his mom had mentioned meeting someone who knew something about his case, but he never found out who that person was. Kwon also says there's no way his mother would have killed herself. She was actively investigating his case, so something clearly went wrong. Sang insists that she was mentally devastated because of Kwon's situation and chose to end her life. He takes her necklace from his desk drawer and gives it to Kwon. Suddenly, Kwon hears police outside. Sang admits that he called them and says they're going to reopen Kwon's case. Kwon immediately runs. The police storm into the office, but Sang tells them Kwon escaped through the window. Kwon heads to an internet cafe and checks his email. He notices something suspicious and tries to leave, but then receives a call. It's from Harry, one of the gamers he used to play with. Harry tells Kwon that something is seriously wrong with his case. The hotel security footage only shows Kwon entering and leaving, with no footage before or after that. A hacker managed to access the cameras and determine that Kwon was inside for less than 4 minutes. Harry says there's no way Kwon could have committed the crime in that amount of time. They also track the victim's phone and discover she had actually been at the internet cafe shortly before the murder. Security footage shows her leaving with another man, and that man was never called as a witness. Kwon suddenly notices the internet cafe owner making a phone call. He grabs the phone before the owner can report him, then leaves. Harry tells Kwon to meet her at a specific cafe the next morning. Kwon arrives and waits at a table with his face hidden. A waitress calls out for someone named Captain. Kwon gets up and takes the phone she gives him, but nobody answers. When he returns to his table, he finds a woman sitting there with her face hidden. She hands him a phone. Harry calls. Kwon answers, thinking he's finally talking to Harry. But the woman sitting in front of him speaks through the phone and tells him, "I'm Harry." Kwon is stunned. The voice is completely different from the one he knew online. Harry explains that she used a voice-changing program to hide her real identity. She takes Kwon to an underground hideout filled with computers. She keeps talking to him through the phone and tells him to sit down. Later, she prepares food for them, and they eat together. Kwon starts crying. Harry talks to him through her phone and tells him their team is arriving soon. She asks him to stop crying because they can't see their leader looking broken. 3 guys eventually arrive. Kwon gets nervous and grabs a frying pan, thinking they might attack him. But they sit down and eat. They tell Kwon they only met Harry for the first time the day before and had never known her before. They explain that she only communicates through her phone and assume she has severe social anxiety. Then they introduce themselves and tell Kwon they came to help him. Meanwhile, Sang is being questioned at the police station. The investigator asks him to contact them if he manages to reach Kwon. Sang leaves, then comes back and asks to see Kwon's case file. But the officer refuses. Outside, Sang calls his secretary. She tells him she gathered information about Kwon's time in prison and discovered that he beat one of the most dangerous inmates there. Back at Harry's hideout, Kwon and the team connect the clues. They realize the case looks completely staged. Normally, a killer would try to hide evidence. But in Kwon's case, the evidence was almost too easy to find. Harry shows them security footage from the crime scene. They notice a delivery truck that stayed parked there for more than an hour. Another car was parked in front of it, deliberately blocking its license plate from the cameras. Harry identifies the people inside the car and discovers that they frequently visit a junkyard. The next morning, Kwon and one teammate watch the junkyard. They spot the suspicious car. Two men in uniforms get inside and drive away. Kwon follows them. They watch the men leave a house carrying a huge guitar-shaped box. Kwon is about to follow them inside when another vehicle arrives with two workers. The workers enter the blood-covered house, photograph everything, then clean the place and remove every trace of the crime. Kwon secretly records them. Then his teammate calls and tells him the suspicious car has returned to the same location with the box. They load the box into a large truck, change clothes, and dress like delivery workers. Kwon's teammate follows them. Later, Kwon meets him and learns that the two men entered a building. He tried to follow them but couldn't get inside. That night, two other members of the team, Nijev and Young, disable the building's cameras. They dress like maintenance workers and approach security, claiming they're there to fix a technical problem. One of them distracts the security guard while the other hacks the building's servers. Harry works from the control room and opens the door remotely so Kwon can enter. She also gives him the security code and takes control of the cameras. Kwon enters an apartment and uses his phone flashlight to record everything. Then they notice a picture on the wall. One of them recognizes the man as a famous actor named Noah. Kwon finds the giant box on the floor. He opens it. Noah is inside. Harry suddenly warns Kwon that someone is coming, so he hides. A group of people enters and starts planting evidence, fingerprints, and photographs throughout the apartment. Then they leave. Kwon comes out of hiding and discovers that Noah's body has been placed inside a block of ice. They also find a hidden camera monitoring the entire scene. Then comes the biggest twist. Sang has been watching Kwon through the hidden camera. It becomes obvious that Sang is connected to the whole operation. Back at his office, Sang enters a secret room that opens using facial recognition. Inside is a high-tech control room packed with servers. He searches through files and opens Noah's file. Then he calls his assistant and asks about some missing information, but she tells him she's too busy to deal with it. Sang gets furious. Meanwhile, a woman named Sue is staying at a hotel. Someone knocks on her door and claims to be hotel housekeeping. Sue opens the door and is drugged. The entire crew enters her room, collects her fingerprints and other samples, then returns to Noah's apartment and plants her fingerprints everywhere. Kwon and his team regroup at Harry's hideout. They discover the truth. The whole case was actually being framed on Sue. Sue is the daughter of a famous businessman, and Noah's former girlfriend, Cho, killed Noah because he cheated on her with Sue. Kwon asks Harry to find Sue. Harry analyzes Sue's fingerprints and identifies her. That night, Kwon waits in a car outside a beauty salon. One of his teammates gets inside and secretly plants a tracking device on Sue. The next morning, Kwon listens to Sue's phone calls and learns that she comes from a poor family and is forced to work to support them. Then something shocking happens. While Kwon is listening to Harry through the phone, he hears the exact same voice of the woman who contacted him before his arrest. She's talking to Sue and trying to manipulate her the same way she manipulated Kwon. Harry calls the woman again, and they keep her talking for 3 minutes while using voice tracking technology. The woman and Harry keep provoking each other until Harry finally pinpoints her location. The woman hangs up immediately. Kwon rushes to the location and spots her leaving work. He's about to catch her when one of her partners suddenly arrives on a motorcycle and warns her that she's been exposed. He grabs her and speeds away. Everyone on the street recognizes Kwon. Kwon jumps into his car and chases them while the police follow behind. The police open fire, damaging his car. Suddenly, a huge truck crashes into several police vehicles. Duke appears, forces open Kwon's car door, and attacks him. Duke and his men drag Kwon back to their hideout and tie him up. Duke grabs a knife and prepares to hurt him. But the police surround the hideout and storm the place. They arrest Duke and his gang. Kwon manages to escape while still tied up. He frees himself and runs. Suddenly, Harry arrives in her car and pulls him inside. They speed away. Harry admits she barely knows how to drive, so Kwon switches seats with her. Then Duke appears again and chases them. Kwon manages to escape, but he still can't understand how the police keep finding him. Harry gives him a device that detects tracking signals. They discover that his mother's necklace has a tracking device hidden inside it. Kwon is devastated because it's one of the last things he has left from his mother, but he throws it away and keeps running. That night, Kwon and Harry return to the hideout and discuss everything with the team. They suspect Sang because he was the one who gave Kwon his mother's necklace. They send a drone to monitor Sang's office. They overhear Sang talking to a woman about Kwon's case. She tells him to be careful because Kwon is smarter than they expected. Now they're certain Sang is behind everything. But there's one problem. His office looks extremely old. Harry realizes Sang must have another hidden location containing the servers he uses to control everything. They scan the building and discover a hidden server room. Harry tries to hack it, but she can't because the walls are shielded. They have no idea what to do. Then Kwon says he has an idea. Later, Sang receives a call saying something happened at Noah's apartment. He rushes there and finds a message saying his game is over. His secretary tells him that all the fingerprints were wiped out and all evidence connected to Sue was destroyed. Sang loses his temper and orders his people to clean everything up, move Noah's body to an old hotel, and collect new samples from Sue. Back at his office, Cho's father confronts Sang and demands that he finish the Noah situation. Meanwhile, Sang's men transport Noah's body, but Kwon and his team ambush them. They throw a bomb at the vehicle, forcing everyone to jump out before the vehicle explodes. Kwon catches the remaining members of the gang. The secretary rushes to Sang and tells him Kwon is after their people. Sang simply tells her to find replacements and finish the Sue problem first. Then the news suddenly reports that Noah's body has been found inside a hotel. Reporters rush to the scene and discover Cho standing beside Noah's body. Kwon and his team had been watching her, drugged her, and moved her into the room to save Sue. The police arrest Cho. Her father calls Sang and angrily demands an explanation before hanging up. Then Sang receives an unknown call. It's Kwon. Kwon tells him that he was the one who set everything up and played the same game Sang had been playing. Sang is shocked. Then he starts laughing because he never imagined someone could fight back against his carefully designed scenarios. He tells Kwon that this feels different because the game has finally changed. After the call ends, Sang realizes just how serious his situation has become. He gets furious and starts smashing things around the office. Then he looks behind him and sees his secretary unconscious at her desk. Sang panics and heads for the secret room. But Kwon is already there. Kwon grabs him and attacks him. They fight until Sang loses consciousness. Kwon then goes to the computer system, turns it on, plugs in a flash drive, and opens his case file. He discovers that Sang had been monitoring both him and his mother the entire time. Sang wakes up and apologizes to Kwon for being responsible for his mother's death. Kwon becomes furious and grabs an electrical cable, ready to finish him. But Sang keeps provoking him. They struggle again until Harry suddenly calls Kwon. She's screaming. Sang tells Kwon that if he doesn't let him go, his entire team will be killed. Kwon threatens Sang and tells him that if he touches them, he'll pay for it. Sang reveals that he made a deal with Duke. If Sang doesn't contact him within 15 minutes, Duke will kill the entire team. Kwon has no choice but to let Sang go. He races off to save his friends. While Kwon is driving, Sang calls him and reveals that his men are going to take Harry's fingerprints and frame her for Noah's murder. He also says they're going after the other 3 members of Kwon's team. Kwon floors it. At the same time, Duke tries to shoot the team, but his gun suddenly jams. Harry takes advantage of the moment and runs toward him. Duke pushes her away and orders his men to take her outside. Then the lights suddenly go out. Duke starts firing blindly. He lights the room with a lighter. And suddenly, Kwon appears right in front of him. Kwon fights Duke and his men until they're all taken down. The team escapes in their car. Duke's men chase them, but Kwon manages to enter a narrow street where his small car can fit. Duke's vehicle gets stuck. However, Duke learns Kwon's location from Sang and puts his vehicle on a tow truck to continue the chase. Kwon manages to turn the tables and sends Duke crashing. Meanwhile, Sang remotely takes control of a car driving down the street and sends it after Kwon. But Kwon escapes again. Then the police arrive and start chasing him. Kwon and his team hear the news and discover that the police now have evidence claiming they killed Noah and tried to frame Cho. The authorities publicly describe them as dangerous criminals and announce a reward for anyone who helps capture Kwon. Kwon suddenly drives straight into the news studio. They enter the building's parking garage and stop. Everyone gets out while Kwon drives away alone. Sang watches them through the security cameras. Then building employees receive an alert that armed people are inside, so they panic and evacuate. Kwon's team uses the chaos to take control of the building. Harry heads to the control room. The other 3 team members work on stopping the vehicles chasing them. Suddenly, they hear Harry screaming. Duke has reached the building and forces her downstairs. He throws her into his car and drives away. The police storm the building and arrest Kwon's teammates. But Kwon jumps from the building and chases Duke. He pulls up beside Duke's car, drives backward, and attacks Duke while trying to get Harry out. Kwon manages to knock Duke away, and Harry jumps out through the window. Duke's car crashes into a parked truck. Kwon grabs Harry and escapes. They stop somewhere safe. Harry gets out and runs. Kwon continues on foot while the police chase him. Finally, he stops in a public square and surrenders. The police surround him from every direction. Sang watches everything from his office and celebrates because he thinks Kwon has finally been captured. Kwon and his team finally realize that Sang is behind the entire conspiracy. They hack his system and uncover proof that he had been watching Kwon and his mother. The whole time, Sang admits he was responsible for her death, but Kwon refuses to let him win. Sang then threatens Kwon's team through Duke, forcing Kwon to rush to save them. After a huge fight, Kwon rescues Harry and the others. But the police continue chasing them, and the media labels them dangerous criminals. Kwon eventually surrenders in a public square, making Sang think he has finally won. But it turns out Kwon had already hacked Sang's entire system. Harry and the rest of the team take control of giant screens across the city and broadcast the truth to everyone. They show footage proving that Cho killed Noah, expose her father's deal with Sang, and reveal recordings proving that Sang helped cover up multiple crimes and frame innocent people. Sang realizes everything has fallen apart and tries to escape, but his car has already been sabotaged. The police finally arrest Sang and send him to prison. Kwon and his team are cleared of all charges, and the truth is revealed to the entire country. Later, the foreign couple returns to the airport and finds their car waiting for them. Meanwhile, Kwon and his team reunite and celebrate their victory.